Welcome. My name is Dave Woodard. I work for Transom Technologies. I am a project lead engineer for several of the new Aero tools that we've done. Today we're going to be looking at the Aero Lighting Designer, which is a very exciting tool that we've developed for Aero. One of the common questions we get is, how do you get to the tool? So I'm going to address that first. The easiest way to get to the tool is actually if you go to the Aero corporate page, not Aero NAC, but the actual Aero corporate page, which is just aero.com. When you get to this page, you'll see electronic components, and if you click on that, you'll be presented with a menu on the right over here, and you will see one that says Online Design Solutions. So if you click on that, you'll actually be taken to a Transom page. And on this page, you'll see a big glowing button here in the center, so if we click on that, what you'll be presented with is two options, Applications and Companies. And you can get to the tool through either of these options, but let's go through Companies. So if we click on Companies, you'll see a whole list of available design centers for different companies, and at the top you'll see Aero. So we can click on Aero. Then you'll see FPGA, Power Designer, and Lighting, and now we'll click on Lighting. And it'll give a brief synopsis of the tool, and from here we can click on the play button, and that'll take us directly to the tool. And once you've used this tool a few times, you'll notice that when you come back to the tool after you've been gone, you'll go to where you were last working. So for now, I'm going to log out and create a new design. But as you use the tool, it's a very convenient feature that you can leave. You can close your browser. When you come back, you'll just be where you left off. So it's very much like working on any application on your desktop. The difference being is now you're on the web. So, but you will need a login. So I'm going to enter my login information. And my password. Make sure I have checked the boxes to agree to all the terms of use. Click Login. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is actually create a new design. So it'll be starting from scratch. So if you look up here at the top menu options, you'll see we have, much like you'll see in any offline application, you can do a new design, open a design, save a design. There's some more features that I'll be talking about later. But for now, let's just do a new design. Just give it a name. So we'll call it Aero University Training. Let's do create. And it's going to ask me, if I was working on anything and didn't save it, I will lose it. So I'm just going to click OK. Okay, and now what you can see is at the top here, we have the Aero University Training project, and where I'm at now is on the workbench. So the workbench is the sort of portal into the tool. This is where you'll land when you're starting from scratch. And you can see there's 6 different categories. And these are 6 unique applications that can all be used individually, or they can be used together to create one total solution. So to start, let's go into LED solutions. When we first go into this portion of the tool, you'll see we're presented with some user inputs. And it's broken up into 2 different sections. One is the LED design target. So this is referring to what you expect your LED solution to be when you're done. So things like junction temperature, electrical efficiency, optical efficiency. At this point, you don't know what these numbers are going to be, but if you have an idea of where you want to be, you can go in and enter these now, and the tool will start trying to develop your solution around your assumptions. The second section is system parameters, and these are characteristics of your current fixture or light or whatever it is that you're trying to replace or what you're trying to design towards. So very basic fields here, total lumens, fixture efficiency, so how much light is coming out of whatever fixture the existing bulb may be in, color temperature, very, very simple parameters. You also notice at the top we have the option of saying user define, or we can do replacement lamp. So if I click on replacement lamp, you'll see the design target stays the same, but at the bottom now what we have is the ability to choose from common industry bulbs that are out there today. So compact fluorescent, cathode, incandescent. Once you choose a category, you can come in and do things like choose your lamp code if you have the bulb in front of you and you know your lamp code. There's different watt options and so forth. So for this demo, we're just going to go back to user define. Just kind of leave the defaults the way they are. And when I click continue, what this is going to do is parse all the LEDs available from Arrow and pull out the ones that meet your design requirements. And this takes a little while because there are several thousand LEDs in the database. So we're going through all those and seeing which one match your design requirements and generate solutions for what you need. So give this a second. Okay, so once the solutions have been generated, the first thing that you'll be presented are 3 different panels. And these panels are recommended solutions from Arrow. So what we have here is in the first panel we have what we call the recommended solution, which is the highest system lumens per watt per dollar. So your most efficacy per dollar spent. The next panel is showing you the highest efficacy, so your highest performer. So if you're willing to pay the extra money, how much performance can you get from all the solutions available? So your highest lumens per watt. And then last, what is the cheapest solution? Now, if you have a customer or if you yourself really know what you're doing and you say, I don't want to be told what solution to use, you can go to the Solutions tab. And this is going to show you every solution that was generated. And you can see we have 7 pages of solutions here. Now, each column in this table is sortable by the header. So, like, if I want to come over here and say, okay, well, what was the lowest power option? I can click on that, and it's going to sort it in ascending order from lowest to highest. And if I want to see what was the highest power option, I can do that as well by clicking on it again, and you can see I got some pretty high numbers. I don't know if you'd want 156 watt, but it is an option. And you can do that for each of these options. So, current, you can look at what was the lowest current, what was the highest current, and so on. And also, another useful feature are these sliders at the top here. So using these, if there's a category that you really want to focus on, so let's say number of LEDs is really important, you're really constrained in size, you can click Edit and set a min and max of the total number of LEDs you want to see. So if we don't want to see a solution with 207 LEDs, let's say we only want to see options between 1 LED and 20 LEDs. So when I've done that, you can see I've reduced my table now to 57 items. And I can do that for any of these categories that I want. And also, if I've gotten a little bit confused and lost, I can also reset my filters, and it will return my table to the complete solution set. So another useful feature is once you see all the options available to you, we have this ability to compare LEDs. So if I come over here and say, okay, I want to look at this XML solution, I can click on the compare, and you can see I've got 3 slots that I can place what I want to see into. So I'm going to place in the second space here, put it in there, and now if I click continue, what we'll see is 3 panels side by side showing the operating conditions of each of the LEDs. So this is really useful for looking at 3 different options and what the design trade-offs are. So here you can see we're looking at 3 different Cree LEDs of different families, and as we scroll down, we're repeating what your initial design requirements were. We're also showing the operating graphs, so your junction temperature versus heatsink resistance, your current versus lumens, and your current versus efficacy. And each of these graphs is interactive, so you can come up here and you say, well, I want to see what happens if I drive this LED at 1.25 amps. You can click on this point, and the graph will update in a live fashion and show you what your new operating conditions are. And also, another neat feature is if you come down here to this binning graph, what you'll see is the ability to look at each of the LEDs and where it lies in the binning chart. So I can either include all of the 3 options, and see, or I can just look at, say, if I just want to look at the XT option and look at the different binning options, I can come click and optimize in family. And here it's going to show you the different binning options. So I can come over here and look at, what happens as I, look at different options available. And this could come in handy if you have customers who, if parts aren't available, you can look at different options, and you can really see what happens as you're moving around in these binning charts. And we are also showing you a live updated price. So if you get into some really tight binning situations, you'll see that the price will go up versus slightly looser binning where the price will go down. So I'm going to close this for now. So at this point, we're just going to assume that I'm happy with what Arrow chose for me. So this XDE is going to be what we want. We're going to select it. We're going to come to this ROI page. And what this is going to show is an estimated return on investment for doing this LED replacement. Very standard parameters. What is from the original bulb, what were your lifetime of the bulb, the maintenance cost, and all these fields you can edit and see what happens if you want to do a comparison of LED versus bulb. And obviously we're showing, maybe there might be an upfront investment for the LEDs, but long-term it'll be a savings. So at this point, if I continue, what I'm going to get to is a summary page. And this page is going to be a recap of everything that I've done in the tool thus far. And it also has the ability to give you a downloadable PDF that you can print off, take to your customer, or whatever you'd want to do with it. Okay, so at this point we have an LED chosen, so we're going to go back to our workbench. And as part of our solution, if we know that we need a secondary optic to go with our LED, we can come to the secondary optic section. So I'll click on this button. And the first thing you'll notice is that the LED information was fed forward into this portion of the tool. So you can see the Cree is pre-selected, the XCE family, the lumens, and the total number of LEDs are all fed into this portion. In the object section, we also have at the bottom here the ability to really narrow down on what you're looking for in your optic. So if you want to specify the number of LEDs per optic, the mounting type, the beam shape, all these things you can specify as you like. So if we know that there's a maximum diameter that you want to set, you can set that here if you choose. And we also have the ability to do like standard options. So we can come over here to standard and more tangible things show up here. So like, what is your maximum lighted area that you're going for? What is your distance to the light source that you're going for? So much more tangible things for customers who may not be optics experts. And you also have the ability to leave all these things just open and see a complete list of all the optics available. So here, you see we have a list of optics available for this part. And again, you see the same sliders that you saw in the LED portion. So if there's a particular column that's most important to you, you can use these sliders to really nail down and find what you need. But for now, let's say that this Carclo part number is exactly what we need. So we're going to do a continue. And similar to before, we're going to show you some performance operating graph results, just to give you a feel for how the optic's going to perform, distance versus beam area and distance versus luminance. So just very common graphs that you'll see in the industry. Okay, and from this point, we'll continue. And like before, we're going to get to a summary page, just sort of recapping everything that we've done so far in the optics section. And again, you have the downloadable PDF if you would like to save it offline or print it or email it or whatever you would like to do. Okay, so at this point, we have now chosen an LED option and a secondary optics option. So next, if you know that you're going to need to power this, you can come to the Power Designer. So once you reach the Power Designer, again, you'll notice that the information that we have from the solution thus far is fed into the tool. So we have total number of LEDs is 3, the desired drive current, and the forward voltage based off of the chosen LED. So this forward voltage is based off of the forward voltage information from the LED that we chose. Now, if you're coming in this tool from scratch, as we said before, each of these tools can be used independently. You can manually enter all that information. So if you know your drive current, or if you know the forward voltage of your LED, number of LEDs, etc., you can enter that here. And at this point, we also give you the ability to specify strings. So if you know you're going to have 1 string, 2 strings, 3 strings, whatever, you can enter that here. So for now, we're just going to leave it the way it is. And also, if you'll notice on the left, we have two options. We have enclosed power supply, so this refers to off-the-shelf power supplies, and then we have discrete driver solutions, and this would be for the customers that want to do their custom IC driver design. So the first thing we're going to look at is the enclosed power supplies. So if we click continue from this point, we're going to be presented with the same type of table that we've seen before, where we're seeing all of the solutions that will meet your design requirements. You know, we have the ability to look at the manufacturers available. Again, you can filter down if any of these parameters are of particular interest to you. You can filter based off those columns. At this point, you know, we can say, if we wanted to say that the MagTech is exactly what we wanted, we can select that and continue and get to a summary just like we've seen before. But now let's go back to the design requirements page. And let's say that we do want to do a discrete driver solution. So now if we click on this and do continue, now what we're looking at is actual ICs. And the table looks very similar, but you'll notice that one feature that we didn't have before is this Design It option. And for the suppliers that have models available for design, and you'll see we have a tool link, the design tool available checkbox here. So for any of these green buttons that you see, we have the ability to click on Design It. So if I come down here to this, say on semi part. So what we're going to do here is choose this on semiconductor butt converter, and we can see that we can do a design with this. So if I click on this green Design It button, what you'll be presented with are some user inputs that you'll need to do your reference design for this part. So at this point, you see you're presented with basic input options. So your minimum input voltage, your maximum input voltage, your forward voltage, and all this from the LED solution. And then if we do create design, what we'll be presented with is a reference design for our solution. Okay, and once the schematic loads, what you see is a reference design for your IC driver circuit. And you can run simulations on this, and for the sake of time, I will not do these because they do take a couple minutes to run, but you can do steady state analysis or a dimming simulation to show the effects of the dimming control we have in here. You can link to a data sheet for this part. You can also be presented with a bill of materials for this part, so you can get a list of all the resistors, capacitors, everything that you needed to do this reference design. And if you like, you can even go to a checkout section that's on the Aero NAC website. So if you have someone who wants to say, okay, I want to buy this reference design, they can click checkout, go into their credit card information, and move on from there. For now, let's close this and let's go back to our section. Okay, so if we are happy with our reference design and we want to do this discrete solution, we can leave this on semi-part selected, click continue, and like in the other portions of the tool, we're presented with a summary of what we've done so far and the ability to have a downloadable PDF. So if we go back to our workbench, at this point we have an LED, we have an optic, we have power, but what we need now is somewhere to put all this. So if we can go to our board planner, and once the board planner loads up, what we're presented with are the first thing you'll see is some off-the-shelf offerings from ETG. And most of you are probably familiar with ETG. These are the boards, the basic star round boards that they offer off-the-shelf, easy solutions here. Now, obviously, we have 3 LEDs, so we'd have to buy 3 of these boards. So maybe that's not what we want to do. So the other option is we can come to this custom design. And on the custom design, what we can do is we can specify the shape of the board. So let's do round. And we can also specify the diameter, the board material, so aluminum, FR4. We can specify the number of thermal vias per LED. We can specify the number of mounting holes that we want. So let's just say, for simplicity, let's just have 1 mounting hole. The size of the holes, and the power, and the type of wire leads that we're going to have. So from this point, if I click continue, what I'm presented with is more or less a blank canvas. So you're looking at the scaled image of that circular board and my list of parts here on the left. So I can grab one of these LEDs, drag it over, and simply drop it on the board and place it where I like. And I can do this for each of these LEDs. So let's make a nice design here. And take my mounting hole, we'll just put that here in the center. You can see what I have here is a nice scaled image of what a reference design could look like for my LEDs. Now, the very nice feature about this is I can continue from this point. And what this will allow me to do is actually either download this so I can show it to colleagues or share it with a customer. Or another nice feature is if you see down here at the bottom, we have this email ETG for production quote. So I can say enter 1,000 and enter a note. Say please send quote. And I can send this drawing essentially to ETG, who can look at this. They'll see the board layout, the size, dimensions, the LEDs that we're trying to use. And they'll get back to me with a quote. And this is a really nice feature, and I'm not going to do it here because this will generate an email to ETG and they will respond to it. So this is a really nice feature to get early engagement on a complete solution win for this board layout. Okay, so and again, we can download the PDF if we want to save this offline. So let's go back to the workbench. So at this point, we have an LED, we have an optic, we have a power solution, and we have a board. So the next thing we can do is look at the heatsink. And as many of you know, the heatsink is one of the, if not the most important part of the LED design. So we need to make sure that we're getting this thing cooled properly. So what we do is we first show you a recommended surface area. You'll see this up here in the top right. And this is a very simple calculation, giving you a very rough estimate of the amount of area that you'll need to cool your particular solution. We also give you 3 common LED shapes to choose from. So the straight back, the radial disc, and the sort of radial fin design. So if I just want to do like the basic straight fin, what it's showing me over here is the size of the different components. So the number of fins, the gap between the fins, and so on. And each of these you can change any of these to be what you need. But for right now, we'll just leave them with the defaults. Click Generate the Heatsink Design. And what we'll show you is like a rendered image of what your heatsink could look like. Now, this is not an orderable part. This is really just as a reference to your customers or to your design, saying that with the power that you entered, this is the size heatsink you could potentially need. So if at this point you have a gigantic heatsink that's not going to fit in your fixture, you know that you need to go back to the drawing board and start again. So we can go ahead and apply this to the workbench. And let's go back to the workbench. And then the last section is the connector selector. So if we come into this section, so once the connector application opens, you'll see you have 2 options. You have the image-driven approach or just a simple table. So if we look at just a table first, what we've done here is just given you a few of the very common parameters that you need for connectors. So mating cycles, if you have something that's going to be plugged, unplugged a lot versus maybe just connected once, you can select that. Number of circuits, 1 to 8, and so on. And you can go through here, click View Solutions, and it's going to give you a table filtered based off of these requirements. But the other option is to do this image-driven approach. And in this approach, what we're doing is we kind of show you, your different options. So you get your board-to-board connectors, your wire-to-board, wire-to-wire, and so on. So if you know what you need, but maybe don't know what it's called or what the terminology for connectors are, you can come here and go through this approach. So let's click on wire-to-board. And what this is going to show us is each of the suppliers that has offerings in that wire-to-board field. So you can see we've got AVX, Molex, and TE. So we come down to TE, and let's look at these SSL connectors. And then what that gives us is a much smaller list of connectors. So instead of the close to 1,000 connectors that we started with, we're only looking at 64. So if we look at this and say, oh yeah, this is exactly what I need, we can click on the plus, and it's sort of a shopping cart feel here where we can add connectors to our little basket. So I can add that one, let's add another, let's say we want to add 2 of these. Close. So I can kind of just, in a very shopping cart type fashion, like add all the connectors that I need to build my solution. And at any point I can come up here and view my connectors that I have chosen in my shopping cart. And again, we have the ability to download as a PDF. All right, so at this point, let's apply that. So now if we go back to the workbench, at this point we have created a complete solution. We have an LED, an optic, power, we have a board planner, we have an idea of what we need for a heatsink, and some connectors. So a couple of other things that are available on the workbench. One is this design checks. So if we come to design checks, what you'll see is a table or a grid of each of the sections. And right now everything's green because we did everything in a very linear, straightforward fashion. We didn't really change anything. But let's say I wanted to go back and I went to the optics section. Let's go back to my design requirements. And let's say if I was in the section and chose, instead of the XTE, which is the LED we had chosen, let's say I choose MCE and do continue. And now I'm looking at optics for the MCE, and let's say, okay, well, I'm going to pick this top one. I'm going to apply that to my workbench. Now if I come back to my workbench and go to design checks, you'll see I have errors. And my error is, what it will tell me if I click on this, is my LED family does not match. So I can click on this, and it will give me the option of correcting my mistake. So I can correct my mistake by either going to the secondary optics or to the LED solution. So if I click on secondary optics, it'll take me back here, and you'll see that it updated my inputs to match my LED solution. So now if I can continue, I can get back to only options for my optic to match my LED. So let me apply that to the workbench. Go back to my workbench, and now you can see that my design checks are all green once again. The other thing on the workbench that you can see is the summary. So as you saw in each section, it had the ability to download a PDF for each section. Well, we also give you the ability to download a PDF for everything. So this is going to show you everything that you've done, part numbers, prices when available, for everything that you've done so far. So just a nice summary of everything of your solution. The last thing that I wanted to show is the share portion of the design tab. So we showed you how you can do a new design, you can open a design, and we can save a design, and we'll go ahead and save our Air University training. Now let's say I was working on this with a customer. I can also click on the share feature, and I can enter the customer's email at this point. And then I can send the invite to that customer, and I can send them an invite with read options or read-write options. So it creates a very interactive ability to do online designs without being face-to-face with your customer. So you can do this before you ever get face-to-face with your customer or whatever. You can set up this sort of collaborative design environment. Okay. And then also on this top toolbar, you'll see this feedback link. And this link is very important for the growth of this tool. So if you click on this, if at any point when you or your customers are using this tool, you can click on this link. So once you click on the feedback link, you'll be presented with the ability to describe the type of feedback you want to give. So is it general? Is it sales? Is it technical support? You can enter in your comment and click submit. And once you click submit, it will be sent to Transom, to the Transom team, and we will look at any feedback that we get. So if you are using the tool and you have feedback, or if there's features that you would like to see that aren't there, or suppliers that aren't there, or whatever it may be, always feel free to use this tool. It's invaluable to the tool getting better. So now if we go back to our tool, that's the end of the demo. So at this point, we've seen all the applications and parts of the tool. The tool has a lot of features that I didn't have time to cover today, so I encourage you to log in, play with it, see what all the features are available to you. Certainly use your feedback link whenever you have questions. I hope that you enjoy using the tool, and I hope that this training will be of use to you. Thank you very much.